Before we dive into React and all the ins and outs of React, why don't we cover the folder structure of the Create React app? And in this video, I will gonna probably be zooming in and out all the time because I would want you to understand the actual folder structure and how the files are, let's say, located, as well as what's happening within the file itself. Just to give you a heads up. First and foremost, we have node modules. Now, node modules essentially are the folder where we are keeping all our dependencies. And this is not just a simple bootstrap dependency that we installed in our example. As you can see, there's bunch and bunch of dependencies because for some of the dependencies, we need other dependencies installed and so on and so forth. We're not going to be doing anything here within this node modules. In most cases, you're going to be using your npm either to install them or actually uninstall them anyway. So this is just a reference of where we have all our files. I do want to show you though how the node modules is going to work together with package.json. And like I said before, package.json was our project manifest file where we have again the name. Remember, we had the name, but obviously in our case, we didn't add anything. Then we had the dependencies as well as we have here the script. So start is going to run this command, then build and test and so on and so forth. So what's really cool about this? Well, what if we're going to go back to our, let's say, console? And first of all, if you would like to cancel the dev server, we just need to press Control and C. Again, the command would be Control and C, and then we left the dev server. So in this case, let me clear a console. And what happens is, let's say that I'm going to delete this. I'm going to say, you know what? I don't need those node modules. Do you think right now everything is lost? Because we clearly are not going to be able to run the command of npm start since this is throwing the errors because we don't have the dependencies. However, what's really cool about this package JSON is the fact that it lists all dependencies anyway. And by the way, this is how you're going to be sharing your React projects anyway, because you're not going to be sharing with all your dependencies. Otherwise, the file size is just going to be massive. So instead, what's going to happen is that you're going to be sharing your project with your dependencies. And let's say that I get the project, and the only thing I need to do is just, let's say, clear the console in my case first, and then run npm install. And what this is going to do, this is going to check all my dependencies in package.json, and again, recreate the folder with the node modules and install all the dependencies. So this is what's really cool about the node modules and the way it works with package.json. This is obviously not unique to Create React app or anything like that, but this is something that I would like to show you as a general understanding. Next, we have the public folder, and within the public folder, we have the index.html. And this is kind of important because this is where we're going to be making some of the changes. So let's say we're going to be adding Google fonts or font awesome icons or even Bootstrap, we can add it here, as well as we can change the title. So in this case, let me write React and let's say tutorial. And essentially, if I would have to say in one sentence, this is where we're going to be hooking up our JavaScript. And it's probably beneficial if you would remember this, although I might swing back anyway. In the next video, we're going to be creating our first component and we're going to go over this and you'll understand why we are going to be using get document or get element by ID. And we're going to be looking for this route. Again, I might swing back anyway just to double check that we understand everything. But this is something that you need to keep in mind because this is where we're going to be hooking up our JavaScript anyway. So that would be the public where we really care about the index.html. Like I said, there's always also a build folder, which we don't have at the moment. Now, what is the build folder? Well, that is our application that is built for production. So again, let me open up my console, then let me clear it. And then if I'm going to run npm, and then we have the command of build, what's going to happen is that we are going to build the folder. So we're going to be running this. And at the moment, it's complaining that we didn't call with any arguments. So let me run npm, run build, and this is going to start the building process. Now, in this case, what we are getting is the folder. So this is going to be our production application. And in this case, there's again going to be a lot of things happening behind the scene, but just the most basic one, you notice that this is pretty much going to minify everything. So good luck reading everything that's here, but this is going to set up everything production. Now, the story is exactly the same like we had with node modules in a sense that, let me first of all delete this, but every time we're going to run npm run build, we're going to be rebuilding it anyway. So that's the story behind the build one. And you know what? Yeah, let me make sure that I do delete it because we don't need it. And then again, we have the node modules, then we have the public one. And before we move on to a source, let me just quickly touch on git ignore because we already covered package.json. That would be the manifest of our application where we do have the dependencies, we do have the commands that we can run, and so on and so forth. Then we have the README, which is a markdown file where we can add information about our project, and git ignore or .git ignore would be the file that is going to make sure that some things are going to be ignored in our source control. So as we're going to be committing to Git, or as we're going to be pushing up to the GitHub later on, the certain files are going to be ignored. Now, at the moment, we're really interested about node modules, and this is what I'm saying, where when we're going to be committing this, we don't care about node modules because we do have the package JSON anyway. So we're going to be able to rebuild all our dependencies anyway. However, later on, we're going to work with .env, where we're going to be keeping our secrets or secret variables that we don't want the rest of the world to know. So that's when we're going to come back to this git ignore. At the moment, you really need to care about the fact that node modules will going to be ignored because there's no need to add them anyway. And then finally, people, we arrive to the source folder where we have the app.js as well as index.js. Most importantly, probably would be in the beginning index.js because this is going to be our entry point into, again, the get element ID. Remember the root, what I was telling you about. And starting from next video, we're going to rewrite all our code ourselves. So I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But just remember that this would be your JavaScript entry point, and that's the reason why it's so important. And then we have the app, which eventually is going to work as a container, whereas we're going to be building all our other components, we're just going to be hooking them up in the app. You don't have to do it in an app. It's just pretty much a general convention where you just keep the app and all the other components that you're creating yourselves, you're just going to be importing here, and then this is going to be rendered. Technically, you could have this called this Grandma Bobby, and it would work exactly the same way, because what really matters is the fact of what you're hooking up here in the render method. And again, I do digress a little bit. Like I said, in the next video, we're really going to start tackling everything that is regarding the React. So for now, we're just kind of skipping over everything. And the app CSS is going to be where we're going to be placing our CSS as well as index CSS. Later on in course, we're going to look at bootstrap options. We're going to look at a Sass options, or look at also the styled components. But generally, to tell you, the easiest way how you can just add CSS is just to add it either to app CSS or index CSS. As you're building components, we will going to look at how we can create a separate file for the CSS. So there would be one file for the component for JavaScript, and the second one would be for the CSS. However, the most easiest way to just add CSS is going to be going to one of these folders, either index CSS or app CSS. So that should cover the source, because here we have the test. We don't care about that. Then we have the logo, which is quite self-explanatory. This is going to be the logo that's right now swinging over here. And then we have the service workers, which again, we don't care about in this course. So this should cover our source folder, our public node modules, as well as we looked at how we can build a production ready application. So I think now we're ready to move on and actually start building our own components.